Ko Holimla Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah Bahashim Rakakwadash. I want to give a double honors to the apostles and elders that prophesied and rule well for the hopeful 144 and the 1/3 of Yasharallah, who this world refers to as Israel, starting at the house of great millstone. Shalom to you, Akim, who teach and learn in sincerity. Shalom to the Akwith, who learn in sincerity. It's your brother, Kanan. And this will be part 2 to put a fork in her. All right? And which, once again, you're looking at a representation of the beast and the whore that sits upon the beast, mentioned in Revelation 17 and throughout the scriptures. The whore, spiritual Babylon, United States of America, okay, spiritual Egypt, spiritual Sodom and Gomorrah, all wrapped in one, okay. And that cup that she's holding, the cup of adultery, okay. So let's get it. Once again, this is what does put a fork in her mean? Used to indicate that something or someone, and that someone being the nation, okay, Edom, the Edomites, all right, is finished, or in a broader sense, defeated or ruined. And hey, once again, blessed are our eyes to be here this day to witness the downfall of this whore. Okay, so the first part of put a fork in her, I went into pretty much the conflict with NATO, that the implosion of NATO coming apart at the seams based on the actions of United States in America, the little hatters, and all this, the different conflicts. Canada, India, they have their own. Turkey has its issues. They've already withdrawn. So I went into that. This one, I'm going to switch focus to the back to the broad stage against concerning the bear, Russia. Okay, and once again, don't forget, those are Edomites too. So that's the point I wanted to touch on in this one. Okay, so this is the book of Isaiah 19:1, the burden of Egypt, and this is spiritual Egypt. Once again, over here in the United States of America, it has been identified. Okay, behold, Yahweh Bashim Shai rideth upon a swift cloud. What is that swift cloud? The chariots that you see, the so-called UFOs, the U something else they call them now, but it doesn't matter because we've identified them. They're not unidentified. They're the chariots of Yahweh Bashim Shai. Okay, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols. What are the idols? The false gods, starting with Jesus Christ. That's not his name. His name is Yahweh. Bahashim Yahweh Shai, he, salvation. And Revelations 1:13 gives you a description of him. Okay? A feet as bronze tried in the furnace, okay? Burnt in the furnace. So we know what that looks like. He's a so-called African American, all right? Okay? And the idols of Egypt, and these idols are more than this Christianity. It's all the different religions that have come here to this gumbo, to this melting pot. Okay, shall be moved at his presence, and the heart, the lob, the mind of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. Okay, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. So that's the focus on this part 2 of put a fork in her. All right, because the Lord is done with spiritual Babylon and Edom altogether. Okay, all right, from the little hatters, Amalek to the least, the Amalek is the least, but what I meant, the least significant, because Amalek is the most significant. That's why it said you're the first of the nations, because you had the greatest might to influence and inflict your wickedness. Job 9:24, the earth is given to the hands of the wicked. Okay, so Amalek and his people, all of Edom, Esau, all of his dukes, all of his tribes. All right. And I will set the Egyptian against the Egyptians. So these Egyptians, once again, are your modern day so-called European, so-called self-proclaimed white people. That's who the Egyptians are. All right. Now we know that everybody that looks that complexion, that has that skin complexion, that has that greater hair, does not go back to Edom. Okay, you can go back to any other nation, especially especially Yasharala, okay, because we're hidden amongst all the people, the speckled birds, okay. Your father goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You are of the house of Yasharala, he prince of power. Your father goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. Unfortunately, then, hey, enjoy it now because it's coming to an end, because it's this the end of your kingdom. So, okay, now we've identified these Egyptians, okay, whether you could believe it or not, these Egyptians are not the Egyptians of the old. These are the Egyptians of today, spiritual, okay, meaning bondage, by the way. And they shall fight everyone against his brother, okay, every one against his neighbor. And I tell this story about 3 years ago. Well, I'm gonna go all the way back to about probably 2019, so not 3 years ago. Okay, for about 5 years ago, I'm at work at UPS and I see a Russian submarine, and they showed the captain, and the captain looks like my across the street neighbor's twin brother. I mean, I identified his face. I stared at it and I'm like, this motherfucker looks like his twin. So they are the same people, okay? All right, against his brother, everyone against his neighbor. And then we already know the conflict with Ukraine, these are actually relatives. That's an actual civil war taking place. That's the one nation against its own people. Whether they identify as another country, they're the same bloodline, okay? All right? City against city and kingdom against kingdom. So we get this? The Lord is putting his own these people against each other. He gave Esau the sword, and now they're going to use the sword against each other. Ultimately, the ICBM missiles. Okay? And then we already read up that Yahweh Shai is coming with the host, okay, with the army and them clouds, which are the chariots, which you call UFOs. All right? They're identified. Okay? And the spirit of Egypt, or spiritual Egypt over here, United States of America, shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. Okay, the head, the rulership. And thy shall seek to the idols. Okay, look up the World Economic Forum, and them calling on the witch, okay, to blow something in their face right after we supposedly just came up out of covert and everybody got masked up. Now this witch is blowing standing on the stage, casting spells and blowing into their face. Okay, so listen to this. They shall seek to the idols, okay, and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits. Didn't I just say that? Once again, I've done about 3 videos on it. You can go through my catalog, or you can just Google it, and you're going to see the witch at the World Economic Forum. Okay? Now, who runs the World Economic Forum? These people, the wicked. Once again, Job 9:24. And to the wizards. Okay? And that's what is a witch, a wizard. All right? So let's get it. Fair use, copyright. I'm not selling a product. This is 107. This is strictly for educational purposes.
Russians very closely, despite everything that's happened in Ukraine. I think in general, the Saudi perspective, and we see this from officials in other Arab states, is that this conflict in Ukraine is a European conflict. It's between Russia, Ukraine, and NATO countries. They don't think Arab countries.
Did you hear that? Now we know that Second Esdras, what is that? 15 and 28 is going to go on to tell us that the dragons of Arabia will come out. But right now, as the conflict goes, and they're already out because the little hats brought them out. But as far as this conflict with Russia and Ukraine, they don't see this as disturbing to them. This is just a European, this is an Egyptian versus Egyptian fight, okay? In-house fighting once again. So let me get that. See how funny this is? Once again, the dragons of Arabia, Ishmael, Elam, mainly Ishmael, the Arabs, what you want to call them, they're already out. The fists are already came out. But as it pertains to the conflict with Russia and Ukraine, it doesn't concern
Ukraine is a European conflict. It's between Russia, Ukraine, and NATO countries. They don't think Arab countries have some moral duty to, cut off relations with Russia and go all out in terms of supporting Ukraine. They also don't view this as a black and white conflict. While they have no problem officially condemning, and at least in terms of their UN votes, Russia's actions, they don't view this as a good versus evil conflict. In the Gulf region, many officials will talk about the eastward expansion of NATO as having been something that contributed to this. And beyond the Gulf, when you also look at public opinion in North Africa and the Levant, you see that this Western narrative about the conflict in Ukraine being good versus evil, that narrative does not have traction either on the Arab street or among Arab government officials. So, the Saudis, like the majority of Arab states, have embraced a relatively neutral position toward the conflict. They don't want to antagonize the West over this war, and they certainly don't want to antagonize Russia. They see a big future in their relationship with Russia, and they don't want to do things now that could upset the Kremlin and jeopardize future ties with Moscow.
Yeah, and then I want to move to the UAE because the UAE and Saudi Arabia do seem to typically be on the same side in much of this, in much of everything actually. Like they have quite a close alliance.